Get your snack and beverage of choice ready. It's time to gather around the trash fires for a tabletop role-playing story. I'm your host, Beck Andrew Evans. My current and main running story for this podcast is the misadventures of the cohort from the Deviant the Renegades Chronicle I've been playing in since early 2021, and I play Jerry. For those of you unfamiliar with Deviant, it's a TTRPG about people who were formerly human, but were irreparably changed in traumatic ways to the point their very souls broke and they became something other. They seek vengeance on those who made them, those who hunt them, and those who seek to exploit them for what they are and will never leave them be. As such, this podcast will feature heavy themes and content throughout. There's an overall content warning for language, violence, criminality, homelessness, substance use, human experimentation, cults and religious extremism, mentioned torture, kidnapping, implied incest and incest-related comments, and abusive relationships. On episodes where there's a new content warning or a particularly notable instance of one of these, I'll call it out. Hope y'all enjoy hearing about my cohort's antics and stumbling headfirst into the mysteries of the world as much as I have.
I'm feeling broken when I'm not near you, or when I'm okay. Now! Suddenly, I get this feeling that something's changing.
Green Country Calcination, Episode 15, Madison's Conditioning. By the time the cohort gets home from the Air and Space Museum, there's a video going viral on social media. It's a cell phone video from the museum of a stretched-looking, tall and pale Robert suddenly blurring in a beeline for the back exit. He then stops in the parking lot. His skin and muscles shift like Hollywood-level special effects to Robert's normal form. The video captures Robert speedwalking deeper into the parking lot at a normal human rate. The viral video isn't up for long, though. It suddenly gets taken down 12 hours later. In the days since, Robert's been mysteriously disappearing at night. Surely just a coincidence. A lot more Snowdale Park Rangers patrol the area than previously after they discovered evidence of poaching. Alerts and flyers in the area say there's a $100 reward for any information that leads to the poacher's arrest. Thankfully, they haven't gotten close enough to the cabin to set off any of Grant's deadly traps. Madison writes a notice in the information journal that they need to meet to catch up, and so they do. One afternoon, Robert is carving bird bones into jewelry pieces in the living room of the cabin. He's wearing a sleeveless t-shirt and shorts. Jerry's busy cleaning something in the kitchen, wearing lounge clothes and barefoot. Madison joins soon after from outside, wearing a pastel plaid pleated skirt, a long-sleeved t-shirt, and tennis shoes. She wears her hair in a high ponytail and sips a sakura frap. Jerry and Robert greet her, and she gets right to the point. She tells them they need to talk. Jerry sprawls on one couch, and Maddie takes a seat on the other next to Robert. Madison asks where Robert's been going at night, uncomfortably watching him carve the bird bones. The look Jerry gives Robert then is not warm. Robert admits to hunting, and casually says he really should get a permit now that he's left some traces. Jerry asks why the fuck he's hunting, and what purpose does it serve? He could, after all, simply not. Madison reminds Robert that they're all supposed to be in hiding. Not even her parents know they're at the cabin. She says the government lake people are gonna take them to hospital prison if they find them. Jerry also brings up how Robert could have simply not been the Flash in front of a ton of witnesses. Robert thinks the super speed thing wasn't too bad since he had his mask on so no one could recognize him. He also doesn't see why they're picking on him for hunting when Madison goes out to a ton of free Wi-Fi places. Jerry doesn't care that Robert was wearing a mask, and Robert weakly defends himself, saying it wasn't a conscious decision. Jerry doesn't believe him. Maddie says she's about to risk getting killed by a Phantom of Elm Street to get a botnet to hide the cohort's tracks, but all that risk and effort will be useless if Robert gets them caught by the Department of Fishing and Wildlife. She reiterates she's always disguised when she goes out, and switches up which cafes she goes to. She goes on to explain her data security protocol. She's taking great pains to make sure she isn't tracked. Robert thanks Madison for her efforts and promises he won't hunt anymore until he can get a permit. Maddie asks what name and address he's using for the permit. He hasn't decided and is considering maybe bribing a park ranger. Jerry suggests again he could simply not. Robert immediately dismisses that option. He asks them to trust his judgment because he trusts theirs when they come up with plans. Jerry says the rest of the cohort wasn't making bonehead decisions, and Maddie scolds her for being so aggro. Robert claims hunting helps him control what he becomes, and claims sometimes he becomes someone else. Madison says they can't stop him from hunting, but she demands he do so safer and discreetly, so he doesn't bring law enforcement or the evil lake people to them. Robert promises he'll be as discreet as possible, and still thinks getting a permit is a good idea. It's real hard, but Jerry keeps her mouth shut and doesn't snark at Robert. Maddie reminds him he needs a fake name and address, so Robert comes up with William Thompson on the fly. This placates Maddie. He then tries to convince the two that they need balaclavas or other full-faced masks, so if they get into superpower fights in public, they can keep their identities safe. Maddie gently points out that that's just going to draw more attention, and they should disguise by trying to look like normal people. Madison's stuck on why they would want to use their powers in public, though. Robert thinks it might be necessary sometimes, so a mask could help for those situations, but he says the hiding in plain sight is good for everyday disguises. Maddie points out if they're not expecting a fight, it'll be too late to put on a mask once it starts. Robert thinks they should still keep masks around for emergencies, and Maddie says she can pick some up soon. She also says they might, she guesses, need them if they ever decide to rob a bank. But no one tells Zeus that idea. Robert suggests they could keep the masks while contacting other supernatural things, which he isn't keen on doing. Maddie reminds Robert she's dating a lake spirit, so yeah, they're gonna end up talking to other supernaturals. Robert's afraid other supernaturals are gonna be more powerful than the cohort, and Maddie confirms Camille sure is. Besides, the cohort's still learning, and they need to learn to work together better too. But it doesn't matter if they're less powerful than Camille or other things, they just need to learn to work with the hand they've been dealt. Jerry runs a hand through her hair and admits she needs to work on keeping society thoughts from leaking into the Minecraft. Madison's alarmed it might mean the link's two-way, but Jerry assures her it isn't. Just the song they think disorients some of the cohort. Robert wants to make himself bigger and stronger and maybe be able to control his clones. Maddie says she finds the Long Man song calming and says Dr. Warner used to play it for her during therapy. Mindfulness meditation sort of thing. Robert says they should be wary of anything the society did that makes them feel good. Awkwardly, Jerry explains that, yeah, it makes you feel calm, but it's a society tool to condition powerful remade. She admits they tried it on her too, but they probably didn't have enough time to make it take. She's scared now. Maddie asks what Jerry means by condition. Robert says it's like the dog with the bell. Jerry cautiously, slowly, explains that if one of them panic, it's meant to calm them instantly and stop whatever they were doing. But it's not strong enough to make them do anything else. Absolutely not asked for. Robert says if you're conditioned once, it'll be way easier to condition you to do more things. When poor Madison starts shaking with terror, Robert assures her conditioning is a long process. Madison asks what else they can do with it. She figures AJ's probably fine because his Uncle Gabe loves him. Jerry promises he is. All of them, actually. But the society members in the know can still weaponize it when the cohort has revenge time. Robert suggests Jerry or Grant overpower the song by screaming in the Minecraft. No one acknowledges his suggestion. Madison gets increasingly worried and claims making someone calm isn't what conditioning is. Jerry tries to explain it by referencing the bar fight scene with River in the movie Serenity. This doesn't help much because Maddie's never seen it. Then she thinks she had, but mixes it up with Inception. Robert wanders off to train, leaving the job of reassuring the baby-living nuke to Jerry. AJ joins the group, just barely missing Robert. Not that he would have noticed, since he's so exhausted and uncaffeinated he's shuffling in like the Walking Dead. He's sipping on an oversized beer mug filled with iced coffee. He groans more than speaks his greeting, and then flops on one of the couches. Jerry moves the unkempt curls out of his face and tells him she's trying to get everyone on the same page. She turns to Maddie and explains the scene from Serenity, how the girl with superpowers started a fight in a bar, and her brother told her a secret word and it made her drop to the floor asleep. This doesn't have the intended effect of reassuring Maddie. Instead, she panics worse. She wonders if that's why she got extra therapy sessions. AJ gets momentarily distracted by the Serenity discussion. He's wistful about how hot he thinks Simon was, but Kaylee the mechanic was the character he related to the most. He then asks Madison how she felt when she heard the Logman song. She doesn't know, and starts spiraling into a full electrified panic. She babbles about how it was used in therapy and worries that the society will make her hurt people because they wanted to make her an asset. AJ takes his turn trying to reassure Maddie. He gestures for her to retake her seat and explains your conditioning can only make you do very specific things you're conditioned to do instead of a full sort of mind control. He says he knows it's scary and enraging, but promises they'll all figure it out together. Violated, Maddie asks how they can undo it to keep the society out of her head. She worries more the specific purpose could be using her as a weapon. She doesn't want to be made to hurt more people. Jerry says she can check for her just like she checked for AJ. And besides, she's seen Maddie space out at the song, so it's probably just that effect like Zeus said. Maddie snaps back that Zeus also said Dr. Warner didn't torture anyone. AJ says that's why they're going to verify it together and not rely on Zeus's opinion. But they need Maddie to calm down. He says he can help her, but she needs to trust him. He offers his hand to the Sparky girl. He says they're all in this together. Maddie drops her cup and spills frap all over the floor. She says she's trying to be calm, even as she's sparking and visibly panicking more. Jerry fetches the mop and begins cleaning the mess and says it's all right, they're a found family. Madison begs Jerry to rip the conditioning out of her head. Jerry gently explains that she doesn't know if she can even do that, but the first step is figuring out the extent of the conditioning, which she can do. AJ goes off on a tangent trying to comfort Maddie, that it's not a death sentence, and even if it was, it wouldn't be valid. Even Judge Judy would side-eye it. Maddie's insistent they have to figure out more about her conditioning. She can't bear the idea of putting her new friends in danger. AJ promises she won't do that, and Jerry promises she'll figure it out. With a terrible realization, Madison starts panicked rambling, wondering if any of the therapy was real therapy, or if it was all just experiments and torture. She slides against the wall to the floor. AJ's momentarily upset at the mention of Gabe, but pulls it together almost immediately. He says parents, older generations, make you believe they're powerful and infallible, but they're fuck-ups just like the rest of everyone. He sits with Madison. Jerry kneels down beside her and offers the girl a hug. She says to keep anything from therapy that may have helped and ditch the rest. Reminded of her own parents, Maddie laments her family never returned her calls. She only got her dad's secretary. At that, Jerry goes in for a protective hug, and is a champ about pretending she isn't getting shocked. AJ watches the painful hug and manages, barely, to not tip Maddie off about it. She's too distraught to realize the pain she's causing. AJ says Madison's parents screwed up bad, not realizing what an amazing, brave, and sweet daughter they have. Now the cohort has her. Maddie looks up with wide, teary eyes and asks if he really means that. Jerry says since Maddie's parents don't appreciate her, Jerry and AJ are her new parents. AJ smiles and says she's stuck with them. They're a super dysfunctional family that drinks together and fights crime. She says the two are the sweetest, but says Lucas will probably kill AJ if he kisses her again. AJ says that would be a glorious death, and fake swoons. Jerry gives AJ a light kick to the shin and releases Maddie from the shocky hug. She has some minor electric burn marks. AJ joke defensively says he has needs, but he's an explorer and doesn't visit the same port twice. Maddie laughs and says that's a new term for fuckboy, but after a moment, looks to Jerry with worry etched on her face. She asks if Jerry can check her head. While the other two go back to silly banter, Jerry connects to Maddie. She finds out Maddie thinks the therapy helped her, but she's unable to find information Maddie doesn't know herself. She can't figure out the extent of the conditioning this way, but is able to confirm that the lack of knowledge isn't from repressed memories. Unfortunately, Jerry attunes to Maddie so intensely that she's momentarily overwhelmed by all the layers of Maddie's terror about conditioning. Meanwhile, AJ and Madison are still bantering about AJ's fuckboyness and other silly euphemisms AJ can come up with. When she doesn't understand one of them, AJ says she'll understand when she's older. Madison insists that she totally understands well. She went to Catholic school. AJ's confused. He thought Catholic school was all about teaching abstinence. Maddie gives an unconvincing affirmative, but it's enough to keep AJ confused. Then, Jerry's overwhelmed by Maddie's fear. She pales, breaks into a cold sweat, and scarlet wisps of psychic energy form around her, singeing the floor and some of Maddie's clothes. AJ stops trying to decipher how a Catholic school student would possibly know anything sex-related to check on Jerry. Maddie worriedly asks if Jerry's okay. Jerry's still shaky, but she manages to compose herself and tries to play it off as nothing. Just a little backlash, no biggie. She says she'll have to check another way since Maddie has no knowledge of what her conditioning might do beyond the calming. Maddie begs her to do it, whatever it is. Jerry replies it's her dream power. Maddie warns her to be careful and not look in on the experiment memories. Jerry says she'll try, but it can't possibly be worse than dying. AJ says he's really in the mood for raiding the food stash and making some trash food like jalapeno and turkey bacon cheese quesadillas. Then he remembers Maddie's vegetarian and suggests blue cheese poppers. He gives Jerry puppy dog eyes. She's very drained, but Jerry agrees to help cook. When AJ runs into the kitchen to gather stuff, Zeus pops out of the fridge and announces he wants whatever they're having too, and then has to rush to find his clothes. AJ yells at Zeus for popping out of the fridge again and streaking in the house again. That night, Jerry goes to sleep for an astral travel dream. She asks the universe for more insight about Madison's conditioning. She has a brief dream about Madison. She sees Madison as she was in the ward when she first got brought in. She sees some staff reviewing a report about the freak storm that slaughtered nearly an entire high school football team and cheerleading squad from a Tulsa private school. Then Jerry hears the Longman song. Later, after she wakes up, Jerry decides to get more information about the Church of Charismatic Virtues. She goes to a cafe with a computer and checks the church website. She also makes a sock account on social media, pretending to be a tech-illiterate middle-aged church lady. She learns Vacation Bible School is coming up in June, the week after local schools let out. The church calendar has a ton of VBS activities planned through June. More importantly, she learns of a summer kickoff event on Memorial Day, later this month. It'll have fire dancing and a youth barbecue. Memorial Day's quickly coming up. Thanks for listening. This has been Gather Round the Trash Fires with Beck Andrew Evans. Please subscribe to this podcast for future updates and leave a review or comment. I'd love to hear what you think. You can follow me on a few different social platforms with the username Beck Andrew. That's BEKANDREW. No spaces on Tumblr and Blue Sky mainly. If you'd like to support me, subscribe to my Patreon at patreon.com/BeckAndrewTTRPG and purchase my art prints and tabletop products, including my Deviant the Renegades community content novella related to this chronicle via my link tree in the description. AJ is played by Rowan. Jerry is played by me. Madison is played by Sin. Robert is played by Pandito. Grant is played by Jackson.
And our storyteller is Casey Grant. The intro theme is _Violence by Avantist from the Free Music Archive, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution International 4.0. The end theme is Time Will Fail Us by Troigo from the Free Music Archive, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution International 4.0. If you like the songs, I encourage you to check out more of their work. I've linked their Bandcamps in the description. Until next time.